Hi. Welcome to the world of creative portraits. My name is Julie Powell and I'm a photographer, educator and writer based in Melbourne, Australia. I have been capturing and teaching creative portraits for a few years now, both in my home studio and on location, as well as all around the state. I started taking creative portraits as a means to explore stories as well as having fun exploring various creative ideas as well. What seems like a lifetime ago, but really only 8 years, I picked up my first DSLR after a 20-plus year absence from photography and I had to learn how to do it all over again. At first I photographed pretty much everything and then settled into mostly shooting still life and portraits. I started just taking portraits of family and friends, and then studio portraits. While I enjoy studio portraits, I have always enjoyed the creative side too. I started to learn about more artists and photographers like Brooke Shawden, Rusty McDonald, Renee Robin, Even Liu and Robert Cornelius, just to name a few. They sparked my imagination like a wildfire, and my creativity started to take flight. They totally blew my mind with what could be achieved in storytelling. That was what I wanted to do. So why creative portraits? I think above all else, they allow me to tell stories. They can be fun or evocative, scary or whimsical. They can be light or dark, sad or funny. Some are well-known stories and others are not. Creative portraits are about letting my imagination take flight. And the most common question I get asked, how do I come up with the ideas behind some of my fabulous creative sessions? The answer is usually by brainstorming ideas and following my inspiration and muse. Creative portraits allow you to explore subjects that often aren't really covered in any other genre of photography. They can be playful or dark and evocative. Fantasy is often a favorite among models and photographers alike. But it can be horror, or film noir, or just about anything. Even environmental portraits can be creative portraits when you think about it. You are telling a story about someone's passion, their work, their life. It's so much more than a standard portrait. So what makes a great creative portrait? While it's true that creative photography is often subjective and personal, I still believe that a great piece of art always 2 that it takes the viewer on a journey of discovery and wonder, perhaps to another world or a place we have never been. Sometimes it is just a feeling, or even something very familiar to us, but seen with a different vision, a different point of view. 4 I also believe that it needs to tell a story. Storytelling is one of humanity's oldest customs, even before the written word, and of course painted on cave walls for a millennia and more. 6 It must also make a visual impact. This can be shocking, serene, heartfelt, sometimes even disgusting, but at the same time I believe it needs to be cohesive and deliberate. In today's session we are going to look at different ways that can help with brainstorming for creative ideas, from finding a theme, to finding inspiration, to actually getting ready to create in the studio, and then look at putting it all together. Create a theme. Often I find the theme provides the inspiration. Start off simple. I find fairy tales and stories can be a valuable treasure trove ideas, but you must change it up and make it your own. Try rewriting an old fairy tale with a different start, middle, or ending. It doesn't have to be the whole story, just bullet points. Be wary of licensing and don't rip off major character lines. It's okay to be inspired by something, just don't outright copy. Besides, the fun is in making it your own anyway. Here are just a few of the themes I have explored: Alice in Wonderland, Raggedy Ann, The Secret Garden, Rapunzel, Sleeping Beauty, The Ice Queen, Forest Fairies, Cleopatra, Marilyn Monroe, Madonna, The Little Mermaid and so many more. Most of my series these days are fairly direct and can often be shot in an afternoon, though there may be weeks or months of planning behind each shoot. So let's look at a few ways to come up with creative concepts. A brain dump is a great way to create some general ideas or overall themes. Grab a piece of paper and just write out ideas. Think about stories from your childhood, or something you have read recently, or perhaps a single idea from a book, movie, song, or even from real life. No need to flesh it out yet, just write down a list of ideas, no matter how fanciful. Don't worry about whether you can actually shoot them or not. We're just looking for a starting point. Search the internet, check out other creative photographers and see what grabs your attention. Perhaps you already know what you like, just need to work your own ideas. When it comes to finding inspiration, look to books, movies, music, other artists, joint creative ventures. I keep a journal and write down ideas as they evolve. I write an overall theme or idea on a blank page and start to add to it over time. Sometimes it can be a year or more before an image leaps from my journal into the camera and then the computer. Write down everything, even if you can't shoot them right now. Scribble stick figure drawings and take notes. Why not create an inspiration folder on your PC or phone? You just never know when inspiration will strike. Pop everything into that folder. So what inspires me? I am often inspired by stories, movies, music, fairy tales in particular. I love taking well-known childhood stories and turning them on their head and giving a new insight to them. Sometimes taking a darker path. I like to explore the darker side of the human psyche. I like to recreate famous iconic elements from history too. Marilyn's white sheets, Madonna's Vogue, Cleopatra, just to name a few. Then put my own spin on them. Try working with a narrative. It doesn't have to be elaborate. My clown who wanted to become a ballerina started off quite simple and expanded as I created the story. The Cat in the Hat sat on a mat could work just as well. You just have to start out with one small idea and let it grow organically. It could be anything. Now, let's pick one theme and flesh it out a little. Try these inspiration exercises. Pick a color, an object, a setting, an emotion, a location. A yellow hat on a chair at the beach, shot in bright summery colors, is happy and relaxed and tells of summer holidays. A black top hat on a red velvet chair in the forest at night, with dark colors and minimal lights, gives the illusion of something much darker and possibly scary. These exercises can also stimulate a story and can be a treasure trove of ideas. So it's also a great exercise on its own. So I picked the color purple, then picked the object as a puppet or wind-up doll. My setting was dark and gloomy, my emotion was sad, the location was a workshop, but you can't even tell here, not everything has to be a fabulous location. But this all blossomed into the Puppet Master series. Let's take a little look at mind maps. These can be an invaluable tool in fleshing out your ideas. Just start with one idea and start working with color, moods, a setting or location, object or props. Just let your imagination dump everything you can think of, whether it is even relevant. Write down everything you can possibly think of. So for my celestial beings shoot, I started off with two ideas, the sun and the moon, as divinities. Hence the celestial beings idea developed. I wanted something that worked for the sun and the moon, different but still cohesive. We worked predominantly with color and light. No fancy location, but quite elaborate costume and props. I chose warm colors for the sun and cool colors for the moon. Similar props, but all different. I thought about what the moon and the sun meant to me and how I could portray them as divinities. I worked with a designer on the incredible headpieces and gave her a brief of my vision. Same with the makeup artist. I made the costumes and props. Next is creating a mood board. I find heaps of inspiration, whether it be colors, hairstyles, makeup ideas, costumes, locations, props, and anything else I can find. I like to use Pinterest and create a new mood board for each collection and pop everything I find into that collection. These can be random or totally by plan. Certain colors often have certain meaning: red for passion, white for purity, purple for regal, black for death. Different cultures have different meanings behind colors as well. What are you hoping to capture, or what story are you trying to tell? If color theory isn't your thing, or you just want some creative ideas, try the Adobe Color Wheel. Visit color.adobe.com and try out various color combinations, explore trends and color themes. You can also extract color trends from images. Fabulous resource. What about props? Often you have just what you need already at your fingertips. Household items, Christmas or Halloween decorations. The kids' toy boxes are full of exciting props, you just have to use a little imagination. Swords, crowns, lightsabers, all sorts of fun stuff. Making your own props can be lots of fun and a real cost saver. I love using cardboard and painting it to make giant wind-up keys, wands, necklaces, and so many more fanciful items. I have make Mardi Gras and steampunk hats too. I also have a folder on my PC for planned shoots, and all the info I have collated so far, as well as other inspirational images, go in that one folder. I add to it over time. I often have an overall mood board and then one for each section, especially for hair and makeup, the look, style, colors, etc. Now that things are starting to get a little more cohesive, let's look to finding what is possible and what is not. Find a location, local park, backyard. Not everyone has a studio, but I bet you might have access to a garage or a lounge room or even bathroom. I like the complete control the studio gives me. I can set the light, the space, the color, and even the temperature. Shooting on location, nothing truly beats a real location shoot, especially an abandoned building, or an old house, a forest, but battling the elements can be difficult at times. But with the right location, weather and light, pure magic. But is your dream location a possibility? Sometimes it's just not feasible. That's when you need to make substitutions or compromises. Check out your dream wish list. Is it even possible? Can you make substitutions or compromises? Perhaps you want to shoot in a castle, but there are none near you. Or on the moon, or on a flying carpet. Can you substitute another location and make it seem like your dream spot? Can you substitute something to give the feel of, say, a castle, with perhaps a painted or printed backdrop? Can you add a location in post-productions? Or do you have to shelve this idea until you can have the real deal? Often location is the most compromised or substituted item. I wanted to recreate a few scenes from the iconic Australian film Picnic at Hanging Rock. Hanging Rock near Mount Macedon is a few hours from where I live, so not too bad. But it is a difficult climb even without all the camera gear. It is also very tight and not much room to move once you are up there, making shooting a bit difficult. While it all seems wonderful and romantic to shoot there, we found a terrific alternative. The big rock in the Yuyangs provided the perfect backdrop, not as far to travel, easy to climb, easy to park, lots of room to move and shoot, while still giving the feel of the Macedon area and those large rocks, as well as typical Australian bush surroundings. The rest of the details filled in very quickly once we had our location. Costumes and such, we wanted to be fairly accurate to the era and the film. Likewise, I wanted to create a Moulin Rouge scenario for dancer Emily. I don't exactly have access to the real Moulin Rouge, so I substituted the location for the feeling. With spotlights, a smoke machine, great costumes, and simple props, along with movement to create the feel for the real thing. Location really could be anywhere you imagine. Is there a budget? Often we have grand plans for a creative shoot, but need to scale back due to lack of budget. Costumes, props, models, makeup artists, studio hire can all cost money. Can you work to a budget? What can be substituted? Do you have friends who are pretty handy who want to help create? Friends who will model, make backgrounds, props, costumes. Perhaps you know a hairdresser or makeup artist who would love to do this just for fun. Can you borrow? I always find it amazing what other people often have hidden away. Costumes and props, this is something else I get asked about a lot. The studio wardrobe is quite extensive. I have collected and had donated various dresses, gowns, jackets, skirts, and more. Many we have made, some are literally just scraps of fabric tied on with ribbon or have bits glued on, and sometimes we use bedsheets as dresses. We often make our own props, but I have also been working more and more with designers too. Places like Wish can be a good source for all things cheap, but they aren't always good quality, and don't always survive the shoot. When it comes to costumes, do you have a plan, a wish list? Sometimes a simple bedsheet can make an amazing costumes, a dress, a cape, or more. I often use simple corsets and then pair them up with skirts made from tulle and ribbon, perhaps even some paint, or fabric held together with tape and bulldog clips. Op shops and thrift stores are your friend. This incredible green peacock dress cost me $7, $12 for a new zip, and then this incredible headpiece was designed and created by Verdessa Ferry, just for this dress. If the costume design comes first, make sure you get a model who fits. A few meters of fabric and some cool accessories can make for some fabulous looking outfits, which can be used again and again. In so many different ways. Find a model. You might be surprised at who says yes. ask family members, until they get tired of you. Grab business cards for the models from workshops, ask photographer friends who they recommend. Try looking for the model that best suits the look you may be after. You might also decide if this is just for fun with friends or a serious artistic endeavor. Is this a professional product or designer shoot for magazines or website storefronts? There are TFP model Facebook pages, like Model Mayhem, but they can be a minefield of no-shows and jokesters, but occasionally you can find some good ones. I believe there is nothing wrong with TFP, especially if everyone is getting what they want out of it. However, paying for models will often provide more professional people to work with. But that can run costs up. If you have a particular model in mind, then design the costume around them. Cosplay and LARP love to have photos of themselves in their incredible costumes too. I have had the pleasure of photographing some incredible cosplayers over the years. It can be loads of fun. You just have to be prepared to think outside the box and perhaps get out of your comfort zone. The studios, most of the time I work out of my home studio, which is actually a converted double garage. I have backdrop rigs and shelves full of props and costumes, as well as lighting rigs. It means everything is at my fingertips. But it is small. I sometimes need to use a larger studio space. This was shot in larger studio, as we wanted to suspend the hoop from the roof. I needed height, I don't have that at home. Consider your requirements for your shoot and then decide on where to shoot. Don't forget studio hire can add to the cost of the shoot. Putting it all together, now comes the hard part. Once you have found your theme and storyline, worked out the color scheme, made, ordered or borrowed costumes and props, found a model and a location or a suitable shooting venue, outside or in a studio. Do you require the services of a hair and makeup? You need to start pulling it all together. Find a date and time that suits everyone. Often easier said than done, I often work a month or so in advance to give people time to find a suitable date. Arrange to send mood boards to various people attending the shoot, add to the idea and perhaps even flesh it out even more. I eventually gathered a small group of trusted creatives, models, makeup and hairstylists that I use all the time for creative shoots, studio shoots and workshops. I have been working with a few core models and HMUA for a few years now, and we work off each other's creative insights. And don't forget to let them have their creative input as well. That's what everyone is there for, right? It took me a while to learn to be super organized. Create a shooting list, props and gear, for what you need for the shoot, refer to your journal notes. From clothes, accessories, colors, lighting, backdrops, other ideas to add into it, try a sketch drawings, just stick figures. Don't forget that mood board too. Get hair and makeup, to do samples on paper, or PC, and add notes if required. Write down costumes, jewelry, props, lighting, color and tones, everyone is then on the same page, so to speak. When working on a series over different shooting days, it is so important to be cohesive and consistent throughout. Things to consider are lighting and camera angles, matching them with various elements to make it all seamless, something I struggled with in the beginning. Take shots with your phone of how everything is set up, take notes of settings, etc. Lighting, once one of my biggest struggles, now one of my biggest assets. Many photographers tell me the same thing. I tend to work with a 1 or 2 lights in a Rembrandt setup, sometimes with a rim light, sometimes not. Sometimes it is just one main light and a reflector. Practice, on anything, with everything and learn to use what you have. Different lighting styles suit different themes and moods. Something else to add to your mood board and shoot list. Try mocking up or practicing different lighting if shooting in a studio. Perhaps you even want fill light if working outside. This is set a light and is a terrific source for practice and figuring out what you want and where. I can see how different lighting looks on backgrounds and models. Think about your lighting. What mood are you trying to convey? Is it light and bright or dark and moody? What lighting do you have at your disposal? Or are you planning on using only natural light? Your lighting can play a large part in your overall story, just as much as color and costumes. Posing, I still suggest following the same rules in regards to posing, to a certain extent. Full body, waist up, bust and close-ups. Move around within your shot for different angles. Keep the camera at roughly eye level and titled down slightly. Don't crop off body parts unnecessarily. Don't have hands overpower faces, allow space around your subject. I like soft hands, pointed toes. I like relaxed faces and to smile with their eyes. I use standing and sitting poses, laying down or using a posing table too. A stool is such a great asset for any type of portrait. But then in creative portraits, there is more leeway to venture into things a little different. I really like to shoot from the waist up. I also like to work from up high and shoot down, or from low and shoot up. Creative portraits is a place to play and experiment, see what works and what doesn't. Try poses, play with levitation. Anything goes. Your imagination is your only real limitation. I love to use symbolism, as well as color in my work, to help tell or emphasize my story. Another thing to consider is the model. More often than not, creative portraits are more like acting than modeling. Some models are too fashion-driven, the poses too overdramatic, the facial expressions too impersonal. A good model is one that can also act. I have found that dancers make for great models. Using symbolism in itself is not unique, many artists use symbols, but I have often used reoccurring symbols, birds especially ravens or crows to represent freedom, moving from one realm to another. Feathers I guess is an extension to birds, but can also mean a transition. Keys and locks, to break free from restraints, butterflies for rebirth, femininity and change. Lights or lanterns a guiding hope. Watches and clocks for a passage of time or sense of urgency. I don't always use symbolism, but they are frequently there. It's not something you have to use, but it is something else to think about. Being creative doesn't mean just fantasy and fairy tales either. Offering creative, dream shoots, like Marilyn or Madonna, to clients can be a lot of fun too. Many clients would love to not only have their standard headshots done for personal branding etc., but also something a little different. Playing dress-ups is a fabulous addition for a portrait studio. Another thing to consider is creative freedom. Often when running professional studio, you don't always have final say on things. You frequently have to work to the client's requirements. With creative shoots, you are in total control. You can try out experimental lighting and posing, even color theory you may not have used in standard portraits. It's a great learning tool. And not just for you, hair and makeup can try wildly creative styles and designs, just not suitable for everyday portraits. Models can try weird and wonderful poses and really ham it up. What if you are not a professional photographer and just want to do this for fun? Get a few friends together, or even you camera club and pool resources and ideas. Arrange a model or two, the costs can be spread across a few people. Initially it might cost a little bit to get set up, but cheap backdrop stands and backdrops and constant lights can be bought for under $150. Go on location and it's even cheaper. Visit thrift stores for costumes, or make your own. See what people have at home, hidden away. It is always amazing what some people have. It makes for the best day out with friends. This image is a cheap cloak and an old mirror, and was shot in a park. So what does a shoot generally look like? Once I have the initial idea, I start to source models, HMUA, locations, props, wardrobe etc. Once I have all my notes in place and all costumes and props sourced or made, often you need to know who the model is to get the right sizes for costumes. I can then start get everyone booked in. It can take weeks or months to get everyone available on the same date. Especially constantly rescheduling at the moment. So be prepared for that. Sometimes it can all fall into place quite quickly too. I like to begin each shoot the same way, with a blank canvas. I then gather all the props I need for the shot. I make sure any costumes are clean and in good order and hang them up. If the scene needs to be set, I often do it the day before, or if I know hair and makeup may take a while, I might stage the set then. I like to have everything I need on hand, so I don't have to keep looking for stuff during the shoot. Stuff everywhere can also make for hazardous working conditions. Same goes for location shoots, although I rarely tend to have as many props on location. I often try to get an assistant as well. or work with another photographer. Make sure everyone is comfortable and has everything they need, and don't forget heating or cooling. Sometimes the model has very little clothes on, but you are rugged up, and that's not fair. Using my pre-made shoot list, I then set up my backdrop, set up my lights to approximately where I think they need to go, and give them a quick test to make sure all okay. I often use a mannequin head on a tripod for a stand-in. I use a gray card and a light meter to check settings as well. What do I do with my creative portraits? So I use them mostly for marketing. My standard portrait clients do not want their face plastered all over my website, social media, and such. So I can use my creative shoots for that purpose. I also have them featured in various magazines, which can increase my perceived range and value. I also write articles and journals and blog posts for various things from lighting, posing, camera reviews, and more. I have used them on occasion for gallery exhibitions here and overseas. I use them to gauge what to run for workshops, and I also do it just for the sheer fun of it. What is unique about my process? My process itself can take months from initial concept idea to final artwork. I don't just jump in and hope for the best. I love the planning stage. I can take months in preparation, hours in hair and makeup, and shoot in 1.5 to 2 hours. Even though some of my ideas have been used before, I try to find a unique approach and unexpected twist. I love to work with light. I create often unusual lighting elements. Sometimes very little light is used on set, other times lots of light, and then scale things back in post. I love to work with color. Sometimes I tend to use unusual color combinations. I used to have a very blue/mauve tones, almost vintage. Then there was a lot of green/orange, and now so many reds creeping in. Actually, I love red. Red is passion, love, romance, but also death and dying. Beauty can be found in death. I adore working with strong colors and items that stand out. Red against black, white against blue, gold, and even metallics. Why do I do this? It's lots of fun. I get to play with life-sized Barbie dolls. I get to play with hair and makeup and play make-believe. I feel truly inspired and creative, almost like a childlike creativity. If you let go of the fear of creation and simply create, it is joyful. I get to explore the darker side of humanity and safety. Some of my concepts can be dark and scary, but in the studio it is often light and bright and full of laughter and music. I get a sense of complete freedom and joy. I do this for me. I don't do it for money or fame. I think people like my work as they can see my love and passion in each and every piece. My creative art initially owed me nothing. I worked for the sheer joy it brought me and my muse. These days, I use it as a source of income, whether that's workshops or other avenues. What's my biggest piece of advice? Learn to say yes. Not what's in it for me, or I'm scared, or I'm worried people will think I'm crazy, I don't have the space or the funds or the gear. Ignore all that and just say yes. Create with childish joy and abandon. It is wonderful. You can create anywhere with next to nothing. It just takes some imagination. It's incredible where my art has taken me by just saying yes to opportunities that have come up. I may not have gotten paid on some, but have made incredible connections or learnt valuable techniques, or just had the best time creating. Regardless of how random the adventure is, enjoy the experience, be present in the experience. Be intentional in your shooting and your actions. Be prepared, but also flexible and fluid in the ability to grab opportunities as they arise. Also, don't compare yourself to others. Fear is the dream killer, and if you compare yourself to others, it can stop you from fulfilling your potential. Learn from others, be inspired by others, but never compare your journey to theirs. We all have to start somewhere. Thank you so much for inviting me to share my world of creative portraits with you. I hope you enjoyed it and perhaps have been inspired to start on the road to creating your own portraits in the near future. You can see more of my work online, on my website or social media. Stop by and say hi.